students, and welcome back to our next class. So continuing with our topic on capacity of parties, we had discussed that capacity who all are there, a class of people who are incompetent to contract, which includes the minors, the people of unsound mind, and the person disqualified under any law. We have already discussed all the provisions related to the minors and their agreements, and today we will be continuing with the second class of people, which is persons of unsound mind. Now in this we have already discussed that how the sound mind has been defined in section 12. So basically we have to look at the mental state of the person entering into a contract at the time when the contract is being entered into. So even if a person is usually of sound mind, but while during the time when the contract was entered into, this person was of unsound mind, then it will not be a valid contract. Similarly, there might be a person who is usually of unsound mind, but has certain intervals of soundness, and if the contract is entered into during that interval, when this person was of sound mind, then it will become a valid contract. Now, the first thing that we are going to see that what are the various types of unsound mind that have been defined. So first is idiocy, wherein there is no interval of saneness. So this person is a person of unsound mind throughout the time when this condition is continuing. So this person can never enter into any kind of contract because the mental powers of this person is challenged, right? Now, lunacy or insanity, it is a kind of a brain disease wherein this person may have certain lucid intervals wherein this person can enter into valid contracts and can make sound judgments. Then drunkenness or intoxication state, this is a state wherein you are having a temporary incapacity to enter into the contract. When you become sober, when you are out of this state, then you can enter into the contracts. Hypnotism is again, if a person has been hypnotized, then during that time period when the person is hypnotized, the person is incapable of entering into the contracts and is a person of unsound mind. But as soon as he comes out of that state, he or she can enter into the contracts. Last is mental decay, which has been defined that with age, at times some person may have loss of making judgment, might not be in their senses, they are not having any mental disease, they are not having any mental disorders, but just because of the age they are not into that position to enter into the contracts. Now, what would happen to the agreements that are being entered by any person of unsound mind? It is same as that in case of minor. So, it will be a void ab initio agreement and will be inoperative against the person who is of unsound mind. If any agreement is being entered into for the benefit of such person who is of unsound mind, then that is possible, as was in the case of minor, that any agreement, any contract being entered into where minor is getting some benefit, where minor is getting some advantage, that would be allowed, that will be a valid contract. Then for the necessary supplied, I've already told you that the same section which is applicable to the minors will also be applicable to the people of unsound mind. So if if some necessaries are being supplied to the person of unsound mind or to anyone who is dependent on this person, then the property of this person, of the person who is of unsound mind, would be the money can be taken from that property. That property would be liable to pay out for the amount of the necessaries supplied to him or anyone who is dependent on him. So section 68 as it is becomes applicable to people of unsound mind as well. So this is all about the persons of unsound mind. It's a small topic. Now we'll move on to disqualified persons. First is the alien enemies. So any person who is not of Indian nationality is known as an alien as per the Indian Contract Act, because we are talking about the Indian law, and you cannot enter into any contract with an alien enemy. Alien enemy कौन हो जाते हैं कि alien कौन हो गए? Whosoever is from any other country. So if India is in war with some country, right? So during that period of war, you cannot enter into any contract with a person from that particular country because he or she has become an alien enemy. क्योंकि आपकी country का उस country के साथ war चल रहा है. So during the war period, you cannot enter into a contract. And if you had entered into a contract earlier with somebody from that country and now the war starts, ठीक है, contract अभी आपका पूरा नहीं हुआ था, तो भी आप उस वॉर पीरियड की ड्यूरेशन में उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को फुलफिल नहीं कर सकते हो. सो दिस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑटोमेटिकली बिकम्स पोस्टपोन्ड टिल द टाइम पीस रिज्यूम्स. Then is foreign sovereigns and ambassadors. Now, actually, I won't call it a disqualified thing. It is not that you cannot enter into a contract with foreign sovereigns or the ambassadors, but they have diplomatic immunity. Okay, diplomatic immunity has been given to them under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961. What is this diplomatic immunity? It says that these people, the foreign sovereigns or the ambassadors, they can sue others to enforce the contract. So if they enter into any contract, it is not performed, they have the right that they can sue the other party. But the other party cannot sue them because of their diplomatic immunity. So ideally, what would happen is, even if you enter into a contract with them, you will not have any power to sue them in the court of law. So that contract actually, in your powers, you cannot enforce it in the court of law. That is why we include them in the disqualified persons. Then is a convict. Any person who has been imprisoned cannot enter into the contract while this person is imprisoned. Once the sentence expires, once he's out of the imprisonment, then he or she can enter into the contract. Also, what would happen to the limitation period, because हमने limitation act पढ़ा था कि इतने टाइम पीरियड के बाद आप उसको इन्फोर्स कर ही नहीं सकते हो कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में, तो यहाँ पर क्या होगा? सो टिल दैट टाइम दिस पर्सन इज से ही अ पर्सन एंटर्ड इनटू अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड देन ही वाज इम्प्रिजन्ड, तो वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इन्फोर्स नहीं कर सकते हैं, वो कोर्ट किसी के अगेंस्ट केस नहीं कर सकते हैं. सो ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम पीरियड व्हेन ही और शी इज इन प्रिजन, उस टाइम पीरियड के लिए उस लॉ ऑफ लिमिटेशन को रोक दिया जाता है. तो अगर 3 इयर्स का लिमिटेशन पीरियड है और अभी 2 साल की किसी को जेल हो रखी है, तो वो 2 साल के बाद 3 साल आगे काउंट किए जाएंगे. सो ड्यूरिंग द पीरियड ऑफ सेंटेंस, the limitation period is held in abeyance. It is stopped. Then we'll talk about the companies. We have joint stock companies and the statutory companies. Now, all the kind of companies, if you talk about, they are artificial person and they are registered under the Companies Act. They are not natural people. Company जो है, it is an artificial legal person. Company is separate from its owners. Now, if you talk about a company, the company can enter into contract only as per the powers that this company has. Now, where are the powers of the company defined? If you talk about a joint stock company or the simple registered companies, they have their memorandum of association, right? This is a document that is prepared while registering the company. So this memorandum of association, it lays down the powers of the company. So whatever is there in the powers of this company, the company can enter into the contract within those powers, but the company cannot enter into contract for anything outside this memorandum of association. So it is not a disqualified thing at in totality. You can enter into a contract with the company, but while entering into a contract with the company, you must look at its memorandum of association to see whether it is within the powers of the company or not. Similarly, for the statutory companies, they come into existence through the special acts which are made for them. For example, if you talk about RBI, it has a separate RBI Act. So whatever is within the powers of that act, only within those provisions such companies can enter into contracts. Then is undischarged insolvent. So as soon as a person is declared insolvent, this person cannot enter into any kind of contracts. उनकी contractual capacity जो है वो खत्म हो जाती है as soon as he or she has been declared as insolvent. Then in case of corporate people, if you talk about the companies, then in case of companies, now we have the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016, under which the companies are declared as insolvent. So as soon as the application is made under this Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code of 2016, right? The National Company Law Tribunal, it orders a moratorium period. What is this moratorium period? During this moratorium period, no new cases can be filed against this company, or this company cannot also file any new cases. The transfer of property cannot take place. Any security in trust cannot be transferred. So basically, during the moratorium period also, the contractual capacity of the company, it becomes restricted. And as soon as the liquidation is ordered कि इस कंपनी को liquidate कर दिया जाए, जैसे ही वो ऑर्डर कर दिया जाता है तो जो प्रॉपर्टी है, जितनी भी कंपनी की प्रॉपर्टी है, वो एक लिक्विडेटर के हाथ में दे दी जाती है. तो लिक्विडेटर हैज दी पावर टू एंटर इनटू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स. जो वो कंपनी है जो लिक्विडेट हो रही है, उसकी सारी कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल कैपेसिटी जो है वो खत्म हो जाती है as soon as it becomes insolvent. Last is about the married woman. Now basically herein, there have been changes and amendments in the Hindu Succession Act of 1956. जो हिंदू सक्सेशन एक्ट था, वहां पर पहले आपका जो कर्ता था हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली में, the head of the family is known as the karta. So it used to be only the male member, but now through the judicial pronouncement, it has been allowed that even women can be the karta of the Hindu undivided family. And so there have been changes in the laws. However, the points that we have to remember is that the married women, obviously they can enter into any kind of contracts for their own property, anything that they are holding in their own name, they can enter into any contract for that property. They can also enter or into contract for the property of her husband, or she can bind the property of her husband for the necessities being supplied to her in certain cases if she is dependent on husband. But apart from this, the married woman, the wife, has not been given any right to enter into a contract for husband's property. Right, so this has to be clear, because at times in cases it happened that the married woman tried to enter into a contract for the husband's property कि हमारी Hindu undivided family है, उसके अंडर जो husband की property है, for that the wife can also enter into a contract, but that is not allowed. Right, so the wife can enter into the contract for her own property, can enter into the contract for husband's property if some necessaries have been supplied to her in certain cases. So those certain cases are wherein the wife is dependent on the husband. But apart from that, the wife cannot enter into contracts with respect to her husband's property. And that is it for this particular chapter. It brings us to the end of this chapter. Thank you.